Hey guys, AFK Tech here, and today we're going to be taking a look at upgrading my network attached storage. So as you can probably tell, spoiler alert, as you can see what's in the frame right now, I have two WD Easystores, 8 terabytes, and I'm planning on trying to use these to create a RAID 1 array in my Dell R420. So today we're just going to be taking a look at opening these up, figuring out which drives are in there, whether they're the white label, red label, and which model within each one of those categories. And then take a look at actually going through the process of testing them, shucking them, and getting them into my server so that they can be used for production storage. So there's a ton of resources out there on the internet as far as which of these Easystores to pick, which drives they could potentially contain, and the process of actually removing these drives from the case. So there's been a lot of debate over the past couple of years, ever since this started to become a popular practice, in which drives are actually going to be contained inside of these Easystores. So in the beginning, the reason this got so popular is WD was actually just placing their red drives, their NAS drives, inside of these Easystore enclosures. And people caught onto this quick, and they started to actually shuck them, pulling them out of the enclosure, as you can see in the picture, and just using them as drives. And people even went as far as selling these as well. You can pick these up. I picked these up for 130 bucks each on sale at Best Buy. They're 8 terabyte drives in there. And let's think about 2 years ago when, it was WD Reds that were in here. And it was an 8 terabyte drive, which I think retails right now around 250 bucks. So essentially you're getting half off for a red drive, which you could then turn around and sell on eBay for, a small fraction off from what the original price was, essentially making a profit off of it. So WD caught on to this over the past couple of years, and they started to actually use something called a white label drive. So they removed the red label from the drives that were going inside of these enclosures and seemingly potentially changed the drive, or maybe they didn't. It may still be a red drive, just labeled white, as to scare off people such as ourselves that are actually shucking these and using them as NAS storage. So today we're going to go ahead and unbox these, hook them up to Windows, run them through Crystal Disk Info, figure out what type of drive's in there, and go from there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start unboxing these bad boys. I actually took a peek at one of these just to figure out what was going on in here, and as well as run it through Crystal Disk Info, so I think I've got a pretty cool surprise for you guys today. So, pretty easy to unbox. I'm not going to go over the actual features of these drives. We obviously don't really care about them as far as their actual enclosure setup. Essentially, it's just the standard WD Easystore enclosure. I think they've been using this type of format for years. I think I had a My Book that was 500 gigs that I probably got 8 years ago that literally is exactly the same plastic as this, it seems like, with some small aesthetic changes. So in the case also, or in the box also, we've got a USB cable for it and then a power supply. So we're actually going to go ahead and use these. So we're going to take this as well as this other one right here. We're going to hook it up to the computer, run it through Crystal Disk Info, figure out which drive is actually contained in here, so we can figure out whether or not it's actually worth taking the drives out of here in case we got one we didn't want, or it's not one that's actually being documented online that other people are finding. So it may have a little bit more uncertainty to it. And then if we actually do find out that these are the drives that we want to use, we're going to go ahead and run them through a burn-in period, just to make sure that there's nothing blatantly wrong with these drives before we actually go through the process of taking them out of the plastic enclosure, potentially breaking these enclosures if you're worried potentially about warranty, and then actually putting them into the server, the R420. So let's go ahead and look through that process of how we're going to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this thing hooked up. I'm just going to hook up to one of the USB 3.0 ports in the back of my desktop. I'm using it essentially in its intended purpose as a USB enclosure. Plug the power in and plug in the USB port itself. USB cable. All right, and so this bad boy is going to start to spin up, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at Crystal Disk Info on the computer. All right, so let's take you off the stand here, kind of go through the process real quick. I'm not going to actually do a screen capture here just because it's such a simple little thing that we're actually going to look at. So we're just going to start Crystal Disk Info here and figure out what we've got. So give it a second to pop up. Okay, so this is one of my other hard drives. These are my two 1 terabyte blacks, my 960 Evo, and then here is the actual external enclosure. So the one thing we really care about here, pardon me if it doesn't look super clear, is this model number right here. So this is actually going to tell us what drive is contained inside of this. So I'll provide the lookup chart down in the description. So what this is it looks like the 8 terabyte white label drive that has 256 megabytes cache. This is the pretty standard one that we're seeing. It's the good one to get, the good white label to get right now. And this is one that is pretty common right now for these drives you're going to pick up from Best Buy. So let's go ahead and hook up the other drive real quick. All right, we got that bad boy hooked up now. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with this one. I'm just going to close out a crystal disk info real quick. Then we're just going to go ahead and pull it up again. Oh, that's crystal disk mark. Pull it up again and see what we get. Give it a second to pop up and populate. All right, so it looks like it was recognized. Okay, so actually this one's interesting. So this is what I was telling you guys about the little surprise I had for you. So the other one, as you saw, was the EMAX, and so that was the white label 256 meg cache, the one that's pretty common right now, and as well as still desired, still a good drive. But this one looks like we actually may have gotten an actual labeled red. This is the model number that you'd see if it was a red. So we're going to go ahead and run these through a burn-in real quick. Based on this, we have two drives that are essentially matching in specification. So once we run these through burn-in, we're going to go ahead and shuck these bad boys out of there and get them into the R420 and find out whether or not this is actually a red label drive here in 2019, a couple years after this method was actually found. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and actually shuck these bad boys out. So let's start with what we think is a white label, and we'll leave the red label for last to see if we are surprised with an actual red labeled drive. Okay, so it's actually a pretty straightforward process. I'm not going to do it super well documented for you guys because there are a ton of videos out there. Essentially, there's going to be 4 tabs on the back side here that you need to get into and actually kind of pry open. So I'm using the 100 Smart Trip cards I have from the DC Metro to actually hold this open. So let's see if we can get this other one. Discontinue. There's 4 tabs in total is what I've been told based on my internet research. So we'll go ahead and see if we can get those to be held open. All right, so we've got 4 of these in here. I'm not sure if I got them in completely right or not, but let's go ahead and see if this actually has any ability to pry at this point. All right, so we got a good spacing going on up top as well as on the bottom. So I think at this point we can take those out, yep, and go ahead and pull it out. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got the white label drive. Looks like everything I could have expected. It's inside of kind of an extra little carrier since we have the external enclosure hardware that actually controls power and all that other stuff. So we'll have to actually take that out of there. But for now, we'll leave it like this, and we'll do that same method with the other drive to see what we've got inside. All right, so once again, just gonna get these in here like this. And also just want to note, I did do the drive burn-in. I didn't do it on camera. I'll leave a link kind of down to a guide on how to do that. Definitely something you want to do though before you start actually taking this apart, because you don't want to take this whole thing apart, put it into your production environment, and then find out that all of a sudden you've got some sort of major issue with the drive, and then you got to go back through the process of putting it back in here. So it doesn't look like it wants to come yet. Let's see. Manipulate this a little bit more. This one's a lot looser, actually. I wonder if for some reason that has to do, oops, dropped the screwdriver, has to do with the fact that this is one of the earlier ones. All right, so that popped that time. Okay, looks like we're good to go ahead and take those out. And there you guys go. So as you can see here, we've got an actual WD red. So NASRA 3.0, this is just straight up 8 terabyte red that's just put inside of this enclosure. So that's awesome. Wish that we got 2 of them. May go back and actually see if in the future I need to get more, but That's really good news. Two similar drives. We're going to go ahead and get those completely out of the enclosure now and actually get them into the server. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next step. So as you can see, it's kind of just set down in here in some drive mounts that are just there to help dampen vibration. So it looks like they may just pop, it just pops right on out. I guess one thing to be careful with is the actual side stuff here for where the USB port. So we'll just do a little pull here. Yep. So that comes out super easy. Do the same thing with the other one. Just kind of pull on the back here to clear the USB and power ports out of the plastic, and then pop it up. Okay, so there's the two drives out now. What we're going to go ahead and do now is actually start removing some of this hardware that came included. So hex H20, perfect. All right, so these just come out super easy. Nice little anti-vibration mounts. Nice to see they had that in there. I mean, obviously, this is something that people are probably going to be toting around places, so it makes sense to have it in there. In a super simple way, which is nice for me for what I'm doing here, but also kind of interesting from the perspective of, those things I think typically are going to be more portable than, a standard hard drive. So you think they'd be in there a little bit deeper, but I guess that's the whole point of having the anti-vibration. They're not really, hard tethered to the enclosure. So I don't really know how these come out. I'm assuming it, yep. So you just literally twist those bad boys out. And so what this was just the LED. So there you go, guys. That's how you actually take these drives out. Got lucky and got a red. I got the white label. That's essentially the same exact thing. I mean, literally you can look at these drives and every single thing on them is the exact same. I mean, down to every single little print, the PCB, everything. So I think there's a lot of debate out in the community whether or not these are actually the same drive. And I mean, I think that debate is definitely valid. There only are some very slight differences in the actual interface right here. And I think that, you guys have also heard about the 3.3 volt issue where you might have to cover a pin up. Luckily, it looks like the PowerEdge servers don't have an issue with that. So I don't think I'm going to have to do that today. I will show you guys if I end up having to. But overall, I mean, these drives look the exact same. I did a benchmark on them, literally got the same scores. No reason to believe they're not just, two red drives. One's actually labeled red, one's the white label to, scare away people. But, at the end of the day, your mileage may vary. You are taking a risk going this direction, but when you're using, these drives maybe in RAID 1 or in a similar storage setup like that, and you're not putting critical data on there, personal files, pictures, things like that, then, you're not really, I think the risk versus reward is definitely there, because these bad boys are literally 130 bucks for 8 terabytes, and you cannot even touch this quality of drive at that price per terabyte mark, which I think is around 17 or 18 bucks. So really unheard of. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to leave a question down in the comments. Smash the like button on this video. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already. I'll have further videos coming on actually setting this up in a storage array in my R420. I think I'm going to go for FreeNAS, just do a simple RAID 1 array. It's going to be used mostly for Plex files. Just need a little bit faster storage, as well as I'm kind of outgrowing the original RAID 1 array that I had two 4 terabyte drives in. So this will essentially double my usable storage, and I will be able to actually put these into the PowerEdge, because the big issue I was running into is I wanted to put the two 4 terabytes into the PowerEdge from my ThinkServer TS140, but I used the integrated RAID setup on the TS140, so you can't just take your drives out, put it into the R420. Essentially needed a way to transfer to a new array before I could actually move them. And so, that spawned an opportunity to go ahead and just upgrade the capacity while I'm in the process. And hopefully the kind of end goal is I got a little bit more powerful processors in that R420, which will help with transcoding. And I'm gonna do a video on that if I haven't already. And I'll link that down into the video description so you guys can actually check out that R420 that I'm gonna actually be putting these drives into. Outside of that, be sure to use my Amazon link down in the description. Helps me out a ton. That's one of the best ways for me to be able to get a little bit of extra money from the purchases you guys make on Amazon in order to buy some of this stuff and do videos on. Hope to keep up with the pace of posting videos. I got a lot of good free time coming up that hopefully will allow me to be able to put out some more content. And I've got a couple cool videos planned, so you guys stay tuned to the channel, and thanks for watching.